When I was 8 months pregnant, I found Ethan in a hotel room, on a bed. He had taken off the shirt I bought for him and was pinning a beautiful young woman beneath him. That day, I stood quietly in the doorway and said only one thing. Let's get a divorce. I won't divorce you. Ethan's desperate voice rang out at the same time as mine. After a friend sent me the hotel address, I waited a full hour before leaving. The first time, I accidentally put on my house slippers and had to go back to change. The second time, I left my phone on the entryway table and had to go back for it. The third time, I waddled back to the sofa, my belly large before me, and stood there for a few seconds. I only took a single tissue. When I finally hailed a taxi, my head felt dizzy the entire way. Yet, I could only think about one question. The man who had stayed up all night, gently massaging my cramping legs just last night. How could he possibly betray me? With that thought in my heart, I stood at the door of the hotel room. A voice I knew all too well came from inside, shattering the self-deception I had clung to all the way there. My hand frozen mid-air, hesitating to knock. I even turned to leave several times. I was afraid of what I would find, afraid the consequences would shatter my life. But just as I was about to walk away, I remembered what Ethan had said to me on our wedding day. He had said, "Kora, if I ever stop loving you, just throw me away. As far as you can. Don't let him make you sad." It would break my heart. That day, his sincere and earnest expression was etched into my memory. I heard myself laugh as I replied to him, "All right, if that day ever comes, I promise I won't want you anymore." The sound of the lock turning startled the two people on the bed. I stepped inside, my feet treading on the new shirt I had bought for Ethan. And with that step, I crushed our marriage. I watched as the man instinctively pulled the girl beneath him closer, shielding her, and the words, "Let's get a divorce," escaped my lips, as if spoken by a soulless doll. Seeing that it was me, Ethan's reaction was violent. Almost simultaneously, his words, "I won't divorce you," drowned out my own. I looked past him to the girl under the covers, who was still beneath him. I don't know what other women are supposed to do when they find their husbands in such a situation, but in that moment, I had no strength to fight her, to use a victory to display the pain this marriage had brought me. Seeing that I was ignoring him, Ethan quickly got out of bed. Compared to his initial panic, a sliver of composure had returned. "Kora, what are you doing here?" "We were just working." The thorn in my heart dug a little deeper. I never thought that even after being caught red-handed, Ethan would still treat me like a fool. After a few seconds of silence, I took a few steps forward. The girl on the bed trembled with my every move. Just as my hand was about to grab the sheet covering her head, Ethan suddenly dropped to his knees before me. "Kora, I was wrong. Forgive me this one time. Just this once." The man's face was contorted in pain, as if he truly knew he was wrong. But if he were truly guilty, he wouldn't have tried to deceive me just moments ago. I shook off his hand and stared into his eyes. "Ethan, tell me, how many times has this happened?" The man's gaze wavered. He still wanted to struggle. The third, fourth time, he couldn't say, because he couldn't even count them all. I laughed. I laughed at how much trust one had given him, laughed at how late I had discovered the truth. In a few more days, the child in my belly would be 8 months old. It was too late for an abortion. I stood there for a long time, my whole body aching with a heavy weariness. I still wanted to ask, how long has it been going on? Did it start before I was pregnant? Or did he succumb to temptation during my pregnancy? Ethan was still kneeling on the floor, desperately trying to explain. "Kora, I promise you, it's only been 3 months with her. Before that, my body and soul were completely yours." I looked into the man's bloodshot eyes and pronounced his sentence. But that, somehow, is even more unforgivable. He had disregarded the hardship I endured carrying his child, making me lose all hope in this marriage, and it solidified my resolve. "Ethan, I'll have my lawyer prepare the divorce papers. You should find a lawyer too." Behind me, Ethan chased after me anxiously, only to stop when he realized he was naked. "Kora, I won't divorce you. I'll die before I divorce you." Over his roar, I heard a girl's timid question. "Mr. Pierce, is your wife gone? Can I come out now?" That voice, I felt like I had heard it somewhere before. On the way back, I cried for the entire taxi ride. Every part of me was screaming in agony. The driver was a woman, and she saw my situation at a glance. Husband cheated on you. Huh. She glanced at my belly and sighed. I've seen plenty like you. The last one was a woman in her 40s. Insisted on trying for a son for her husband. The moment the baby was born, her husband filed for divorce. Couldn't take the child. Couldn't get any assets. The mistress moved in with her 3 daughters and kicked her right out. She wanted to tell me that there were many women in the world who had been betrayed by their husbands. Even if I cried myself to death, life had to go on. I stopped crying and looked out the window. I'm planning to get a divorce. Meeting my questioning gaze in the rearview mirror, the driver chuckled softly. You're more decisive than most women I've met. Let's just hope you can hold on to that resolve when your husband is on his knees begging for forgiveness. I knew what she meant. Many women, for the sake of their children, for their parents, or for something else they hold dear, choose to endure again and again. They push themselves to the brink of a breakdown before they dare to let everything go. Just like my mother, who endured my father's affairs for 10 years so that I wouldn't have to suffer under a stepmother. I had watched her transform from a vibrant young woman into a bitter one who would fly into a rage over the smallest thing. The taxi soon arrived at our upscale villa. Ethan was leaning against the car door, smoking one cigarette after another. He had cut the travel time in half, waiting for me. Seeing me return, Ethan threw down his cigarette and eagerly opened the car door for me, paying the fare. It was as if nothing I had just seen had ever happened. The driver refunded the fare he had paid. The sound of the transaction notification made the man look up in confusion. In that moment, I slipped past his outstretched hand and got out of the car. I don't want money from a man who cheats on his pregnant wife. It's dirty. Ethan's face instantly darkened. I let out a small laugh. The suffocating tightness in my chest eased considerably. I even thought to myself, so what if I'm getting a divorce? The world is full of men. The driver gave me a mischievous wink, stepped on the gas, and drove away. Back home, Ethan bent down to place slippers for me, handed me a hot towel to wipe my hands, and then rushed into the kitchen to cook for me himself. He sent the housekeeper out, who looked at me with envy. Ma'am, a good man like the mister, who loves his wife and is so family-oriented, is truly rare these days. I remained silent. Before today, I had thought so too. That evening, after instructing my lawyer to prepare for the divorce, I banished Ethan to the guest room. The man's lips moved, but when he saw the disgust in my eyes, his body trembled involuntarily. He quietly left the room. Late at night, my swollen legs began to cramp again. Pained groans escaped my lips, amplified in the darkness. The next second, the door burst open, and Ethan rushed in. He took my leg and began to massage it gently, just as he did every night. When the pain finally subsided, large tears fell from the man's bowed head, landing on my leg, cold against my skin. His voice was hoarse. Kora, can we not get a divorce, please? His initial sobs turned into a torrent of tears. Ethan collapsed onto me, letting go of all his defenses, crying like a child. For a long time, I tilted my head back slightly, staring at the chandelier above. All I had to do was say one thing. Okay, I forgive you. And our lives would return to the happy state they were in before. If only I would relent. If only I would compromise just this once. If only. But I knew I couldn't. I sniffled and sent Ethan out of the room. I didn't sleep all night. Just as I was dozing off at dawn, I was woken by a commotion. Ethan's sister, Bianca, came clattering up the stairs in her high heels. Seeing her brother sleeping on the floor outside my room, she burst in. Kora, you bitch. What right do you have to make my brother sleep on the floor? Ignoring my pregnant belly, she grabbed my arm and tried to drag me out of bed. I stumbled, nearly falling, but a small, slender girl caught me just in time. The full weight of my body pressed down on her, causing her to grunt. Thank you. I quickly righted myself and looked at the girl Bianca often brought over, grateful. The girl seemed a little afraid of me, ducking her head and waving her hands. Even though I had been Bianca's sister in law for 5 years, she still had no respect for me. Don't think that just because you're carrying my brother's child, you're the queen of this family. My parents may spoil you, but I won't. She had always been jealous of the affection Ethan's parents showed me. Every time we met, she would make a few sarcastic remarks. Her words were usually harmless, and I had gotten used to them. But just as I was about to walk away, I heard her say, "Kora, my brother has someone else now, doesn't he? After you have the baby and become a frumpy housewife, and you lose my brother's favor, let's see you act so high and mighty then." She shot a look at the girl beside her, a knowing smirk on her face. I finally turned back, my voice calm. "So, you knew Ethan was cheating?" A triumphant look crossed Bianca's face, her chin held high. "You're a burden your own father didn't even want. Did you really expect my brother to be faithful to you alone? Huh. Dream on." Before, I had always thought Bianca's behavior was just childish jealousy and never took it to heart. But even a stranger, seeing a woman betrayed by her husband during her pregnancy, would not be so gloating. Bianca glared at me, then dragged the girl over to my jewelry drawer. She rummaged through it familiarly, pulling out necklaces and bracelets worth millions. After taking a diamond necklace worth tens of millions for herself, she spent a long time searching through the rest. She placed a diamond ring on the girl's ring finger. She then waved the girl's hand in front of me tauntingly. "Holly, this is my sister-in-law's wedding ring. It's a matching set with my brother's. It suits you perfectly. Perhaps pregnancy really does make you slow." At that moment, I still hadn't grasped the hidden meaning in Bianca's words. In the past, whenever I got a new piece of luxury jewelry or a new bag, Bianca would be the first to come over and openly rummage through my things. Many of the items she took were things I hadn't even used once. I always thought, we're family. It's not like she's giving them to a stranger. So I always let her. But now, I was about to divorce Ethan. I was not going to be a doormat anymore. As for the wedding ring, if she wanted it, she could have it. I ignored the challenge in Bianca's eyes and snatched all the items from her hand. Then, I picked out a bracelet worth $1 million from the box. I turned to the timid-looking girl and said, "This is for you. It's new. I've never worn it. Thank you for catching me just now." The girl backed away hastily, looking genuinely scared of me. "Ma'am, no. I couldn't. It's too valuable. I'm not one to force things on people." I was about to put the bracelet down when I heard the girl hesitate. "Ma'am, could you give me this ring instead? I really like it." I paused for a moment, then nodded. But before the girl could take it, it was snatched away by Ethan, who had suddenly appeared at the door. "Kora, that's our wedding ring. How could you give it to someone else?" His voice was strained, as if squeezed from his throat. I looked at the pale-faced girl and reassured her. "It's okay. He's not mad at you. You two can go now." Bianca was still afraid of her brother and was the first to run out. The other girl, whether from fear or something else, walked slowly, looking back with every step. Finally, we were alone. "Ethan, I'm not joking about the divorce." The man's eyes were red. "I know you're angry right now, but can't you just give me one more chance? I promise." "No." I cut him off, leaving no room for negotiation. Ethan's breathing was heavy. He looked at me with resentment. "Kora, even when your father had all those women on the side, your mother still gave him 10 years. You're nothing like your mother. You're heartless." In that moment, the thorn in my heart plunged all the way in. The pain was excruciating. I never knew Ethan could be so cruel. The man realized he had said the wrong thing. His outstretched hand trembled in mid-air. I tilted my head, and tears streamed down my cheeks. "So, Ethan, if I forgive you this time, will you become just like my father?" Before he could answer, I said with absolute certainty, "You will." For the entire afternoon, Ethan did not appear before me. He didn't even eat dinner. At the dinner table, Bianca's eyes darted around, sizing me up with ill intent. As I put down my chopsticks and prepared to go upstairs, she finally spoke. "Aren't you curious about what my brother is doing?" I didn't stop, just kept walking. Bianca grew impatient. She called after me, "Kora, even if my brother is having a secret rendezvous with another woman in this very house, you still don't care." The entrance to the dim, gloomy basement. A sliver of light shone from under the door, falling at my feet. In the quiet space, faint voices reached my ears. "Holly, who told you to come here? Are you looking to die?" The man's hand was wrapped around the girl's delicate neck, his hot breath fanning across her face. Ethan only let go when a purplish bruise appeared on her skin. "Take the money I gave you and get out." The girl, ignoring her discomfort, threw her arms around the man's waist, sobbing. "Mr. Pierce, You said you liked me a little. I won't fight with your wife for anything. I just want you to let me stay by your side. Didn't you say pregnant women get fat and moody? That you're not even interested in her anymore? I can satisfy you. The girl's voice was soft and weak, like a kitten's, evoking pity. Ethan didn't push her away this time, just let his arms hang limply at his sides. Kora is the only woman I have ever truly loved. Even if our bodies are no longer in sync, she is still the wife I have chosen for life. I can't return your feelings. Consider it my debt to you. You should go. Bianca excitedly tugged at my arm, signaling for me to rush in. So, this girl was the one Ethan was cheating with. I should have known. I didn't go in to disturb the two of them. Instead, I turned slightly to look at Bianca, who was eagerly anticipating a good show. You went all this trouble to find a woman for Ethan. You really don't want your brother and me to be together, do you? Perhaps my expression was too serious, because it seemed to suppress the flicker of excitement in her. She waved her hand dismissively and rolled her eyes. Kora, besides being pretty, what do you have? Your family background, your connections. How are you a match for my brother? So, she didn't know. Do your parents know what you've been doing? A dark look of jealousy flashed across Bianca's face. Don't think that just because you've charmed my parents, they'll side with you on this. They can favor you and punish me, but when it comes to my brother, they will never choose you. If you don't want a divorce, then you'll just have to endure it for the rest of your life. Bianca always thought that her parents went to great lengths to please me and protect me because I was Ethan's wife, their daughter. In law. How laughable. How utterly laughable. Without long-term benefits, how could the status quo be maintained? The day I married into the Pierce family, I brought a dowry of $100 million, which was invested in their company. During our marriage, because the Pierce Corporation often faced tight cash flow, I invested nearly $300 million more, intermittently, to support the projects Ethan championed. Now, I held 10% of the Pierce Corporation shares. I was a major shareholder. Actually, Ethan had been wrong about one thing. In the 10 years my mother endured my father's affairs, she wasn't idle. Under the title of wife, she secured a fortune for her daughter that could last several lifetimes. Meeting Bianca's mocking gaze, I slowly smiled. Since she wanted me out of the Pierce family so badly, I would grant her wish, and I would take what was mine with me. The sound of our conversation disturbed the two people behind the door. Ethan was the first to come out. The girl, Holly, clutched his shirt, only her head visible. They were standing extremely close, but Ethan didn't seem to notice. It was a habit that could only be formed over time. Seeing me, the man panicked, his voice full of helplessness. Kora, let me explain. His explanation would undoubtedly be that he was just there to end things with Holly. I had no interest in hearing it. Ethan, we're getting a divorce soon. I don't want to deal with your messes anymore. But please, control your sister. Don't let her test my limits again and again. This divorce is happening. I glanced at Ethan's pale face and turned to leave. A few minutes later, Bianca ran out of the basement, crying, a red handprint on her cheek. That evening, Ethan's parents came over. The moment his mother saw me, she started to cry, her voice full of pain. Kora, Mom supports your decision to divorce. Even though Ethan is my son, I will never forgive him for hurting you. I was a little moved. Over the years, leaving aside the financial interests, his mother had treated me like her own daughter. Every time Bianca took something valuable from me, she would scold her harshly in front of me, afraid I would be upset. That was probably why Bianca hated me so much. Ethan's father flicked his sleeve and admonished his wife. Don't you add to the chaos. Kora is about to have a baby. How can you encourage them to separate? His mother squeezed my hand and retorted, even if my grandson is born into a broken home, I won't let Kora be wronged. At worst, after Ethan remarries, I'll raise my grandson myself. Even without his parents, he'll still have his grandparents. We can raise him. Her words made me a little uncomfortable. I slowly pulled my hand away. The child I had carried for 10 months would not be raised by Ethan. Realizing I might be angry, his mother reached for my hand again. She smiled sheepishly. In the end, I relented and didn't pull away. They stayed for dinner. Ethan saw them out. When he returned, I was still at the dining table. A divorce agreement lay in front of me. Ethan pulled out a chair, sat down, and wiped his face. Is there no room for reconciliation? I didn't answer. The man let out a self-deprecating laugh. Forget it. I'll sign. He was about to sign without even looking at the contents. I reminded him. The child is mine. Kora. That's my child. His last name is Pierce. Ethan's head snapped up. I could clearly see the 3 bloodshot veins in his eyes. I said, the child is mine. His last name will be mine. I can leave with nothing. And I can choose not to remarry for the rest of my life. The man, for some reason, seemed to consider this and asked me to confirm it several times. Afterward, I had my lawyer draft a new divorce agreement. This time, he signed it. But Ethan had one condition. He said we could only finalize the divorce after the child was born. I agreed. From that day on, although Ethan and I still lived in the same house, we lived separate lives. I don't know what he told his parents, but they didn't come over again either. Finally, the day I went into labor, Ethan wasn't home. The ambulance I had called was also late. The housekeeper was pacing in circles, frantic. In the end, it was my mother, who had just returned from abroad, who drove me to the hospital. I later found out that on that day, Holly had fainted at our doorstep. Ethan, thinking the ambulance was for her, had carried her into it. When I woke up, the entire Pierce family was standing outside my room. Ethan was kneeling in the hallway, refusing to get up. I used to think he was a good one. Turns out he's just like your philandering father, my mother said, full of regret. After all, Ethan had passed her rigorous screening process back then. I had a son, small, red, his skin wrinkled, not at all handsome, but his arrival seemed to stitch up all the wounds in my heart. After seeing my son, I let my mother allow the Pierce family in. Ethan, from kneeling for so long, was unsteady on his feet, but he was still the first to rush to my side. Kora, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't know you were going into labor. If I had known, 100, 1,000, 1,000,000 Hollis wouldn't have mattered more than you. In the past, Ethan could still stir my emotions, but now, I found my heart was surprisingly calm. I cut off his confession. Ethan, I don't want to hear you talk. Can I speak first? A flicker of hurt crossed the man's eyes. I didn't look at him, addressing the Pierce family instead. After I'm discharged, I will divorce Ethan. This child will have no connection to the Pierce family from now on. No. Ethan's mother was the first to object. All traces of her previous kindness were gone. My mother confronted her, and they negotiated many terms. Finally, Ethan's father spoke. You can have the child, but you have to give us all your shares in the Pierce Corporation. I thought for a moment and made a counteroffer. I can give you all of them, but you have to return my dowry of 100 million. Otherwise, I'll sell them to your competitors. Ethan's father gritted his teeth and went back to raise the money. Ethan kept his head down the entire time, saying nothing. He had finally realized that there was no turning back for our marriage. After his parents left, Bianca came in, supporting Holly, who was clutching her abdomen. I could see at a glance that she was pregnant. Finally rid of me, the person she detested. Bianca was glowing. Kora, you're not the only one who can bear a child for our family. Holly is pregnant with my brother's child. My mother wanted to throw them out, but I stopped her. I watched as Holly walked to Ethan's side, as if staking her claim. The timid, guilty demeanor of a mistress was gone. Miss Kora, a divorced woman should keep her distance from Mr. Pierce. The girl was smug, as if without me, she could marry Ethan immediately. Miss Holly, you climbed your way up during my pregnancy. Aren't you afraid that when you're pregnant, Ethan will find another woman more capable than you? You should worry more about yourself. After all, without a man, I still have money. I wonder what you have, Miss Holly. Then, I turned to Bianca, who was enjoying the show. I hear the family is discussing your marriage to the second son of the Gordon family. Bianca held her head high. This marriage was her greatest pride. If I were you, I'd get married quickly. I wonder if she could still marry into that family without the Pierce family's backing. Bianca never believed anything I said. She was about to curse at me when Ethan, who had been silent all this time, dragged her out. Don't worry, I won't let them bother you again. After my postpartum confinement, I left my son with my mother. I got into Ethan's car and went to the Civil Affairs Bureau. We didn't speak a word the entire way. Only after we came out did Ethan finally speak. Kora, can I visit our son often? I turned my back to him. It's better if you don't. I don't want my son to have a father who cheats. If you really care about him, then for the rest of your life, don't claim to be his father. Ethan's father raised the money, and I transferred all my shares to his name. In exchange, I received a legally binding document severing all ties. While my mother was helping me with the baby, she kept lamenting the $300 million I had lost to the Pierce family. That was the money I fought for from your father and his illegitimate son, to just hand it over to the Pierces. No wonder I couldn't see through that boy Ethan. His whole family is a bunch of cunning, hypocritical people who only care about their own interests. Since divorcing my father, my mother had returned to her lively, chatty self. I still remember the years she raised me. My father's mistresses would often come to our house to cause trouble. Although my mother no longer had feelings for my father, I think she must have been hurt. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been so on edge, so quick to anger during that time. I smiled faintly and reassured her. Don't feel bad. Getting the $100 million back was good enough. Otherwise, we would have lost everything. My mother was confused. I told her what I knew. The night Ethan's parents came to persuade me, I had already thought about selling my shares. But when I approached several of the Pierce Corporation's rivals, they all avoided me. Later, a friend found out through her connections that a major project at the Pierce Corporation was in serious trouble. Ethan's paternal half uncle was in charge and had used some tricks to hide it from Ethan's side of the family. Now, the uncle was frantically transferring assets, and the money Ethan's parents had raised by selling their house and jewelry was now all with me. I'm afraid they would come to regret it. After Ethan and I divorced, he often appeared downstairs from my apartment, knowing I wouldn't let him see the child. He didn't disturb us. He just sat quietly in his car, his window open, smoking all night. Although it didn't really affect us, it was unsettling over time. My mother's heart softened. She started to waver and suggested, Kora, why don't you let him come in and see the baby? Just for a moment. I firmly refused. The first time leads to a second, and then to countless more. That night, I threw on a coat and went downstairs. Seeing me, the man hastily extinguished the cigarette between his fingers. He got out of the car, a hint of joy in his eyes. These past few days, Ethan looked like he had been through a lot. The smell of smoke on him was particularly strong. I took a few steps back and frowned. Stay away from me. You stink. Ignoring his expression, I continued. Ethan, whether you're trying to play the victim card or you genuinely regret it, I hope you'll stop showing up here, perhaps hurt by my words. A desolate look crossed the man's face. Kora, I don't want to come either, but I can't sleep. With that, he took another cigarette from the car and lit it, taking a deep drag. The flickering light at his fingertips made him seem like a stranger. Only after he had finished the entire cigarette did he speak. All right, I promise you, I won't come back again. Ethan was a man of his word. Since he had made a promise, I nodded and went back upstairs without expression. From that day on, Ethan never appeared again. But even if he had wanted to go back on his word, he probably wouldn't have had the time. Ethan's uncle and his entire family fled the country. The mess they left behind was all dumped on the unprepared Pierce family. When Ethan's father found out, he fainted on the spot. The entire company was now relying on Ethan to keep it afloat, but they had discovered it too late. Almost all the senior executives had already found their way out and were submitting their resignations one after another. While Ethan was swamped with work, Holly showed up, demanding money for the child in her belly. It turned out that Holly was not Bianca's so-called classmate at all. She was someone Bianca had found in a bar. A friend of Bianca's was Holly's ex-boyfriend. Bianca had overheard him joking with his friends. Holly may not be the prettiest, but she's a devil in bed. If I didn't have a rule about not dating anyone for more than a month, I'd have a hard time letting her go. Hearing this, Bianca got the idea to find a woman for her brother, Ethan. She made a deal with Holly and then brought her to my house under the guise of being a classmate. Sometimes, she would even stay for a few days. Over time, she was bound to run into Ethan. When Holly went to the company to find Ethan, Bianca happened to be there too. Bianca was furious, and the two of them started arguing. You're just a piece of trash. Who knows if the baby in your belly is even my brother's? Why should we give you money? Holly knew the Pierce company was failing, If she didn't get the money now, she never would. She had nothing left to lose and fought back fiercely. You, of all people, should know if it's your brother's. Didn't you stare at my belly after every time? You were the one who brought me here to seduce him. Huh. I've been around. But I've never seen a sister find a woman for her own married brother to drive away his wife. Glancing at Ethan's darkening face, Bianca panicked. She couldn't let Holly say any more. The two of them started fighting. And soon there was blood. Holly's baby was lost in the accident. Shortly after, Bianca's fiancé's family also came to break off the engagement. This was Bianca's last hope. And now it was gone. She cried and screamed at home all day, demanding that Ethan get her engagement back. Ethan shook off her hand, his expression unreadable. This is your punishment for destroying my family. This is karma. Ethan's parents, not knowing the truth, were stunned. His father slapped Bianca hard across the face. The first time he had ever hit her. You fool. An absolute fool. Did you think we favored her? We were after her money. His mother also looked at her daughter with disappointment. Bianca, have you ever returned anything you took from Kora? I just had to placate her a little. You'd give a half-hearted apology. And wouldn't all her nice things become yours? Look at all the jewelry and bags in your room. I've been saving my whole life and I don't have as much as you. For the first time, Bianca looked lost. The favoritism she had always believed in was a lie. While she was in a daze, Ethan laughed. A hollow, crazed sound. How ridiculous. The happy marriage he thought he had was all held together by dividing up Kora's wealth. The harmonious relationship he thought he had with his in-laws was filled with calculation and deceit. That day, ignoring the cries of his mother and sister, Ethan returned everything Bianca had taken from me. Kora, I'm sorry. For all the years you were married to me, you were wronged. Although I had already gotten my revenge on Bianca, I still accepted the items. I plan to donate them to charity later. That's right. I was the one who had sabotaged Bianca's engagement. The Gordon family had a strong moral compass and wouldn't have broken off the engagement just because the Pierce family had fallen on hard times. I had gone to them and told them everything Bianca had done to me. A daughter-in-law with a twisted moral compass who delighted in causing trouble. The Gordon family naturally wanted nothing to do with her. On the day of my son's 100-day celebration, the Pierce Corporation finally succumbed to the crisis. They declared bankruptcy. The house was seized, and the family of 4 was squeezed into a tiny, cramped apartment. As the main culprit, Bianca bore the brunt of their resentment and accusations. The fragile, spoiled rich girl, who had been coddled her whole life, was driven mad by her own parents, who had lost their lavish lifestyle. Every day, when her family wasn't looking, she would wander the streets, laughing and talking to herself. One night, she suddenly appeared downstairs from my building. She shouted up from below, "Sister-in-law, it's Bianca. Won't you come home with me? My brother is still waiting for you." I didn't go down. I just contacted Ethan and told him to come get her. Ethan must have been out looking for her, because he arrived quickly. I stood by the window and watched as he forcefully carried his sister on his back. Before he left, he looked up in the direction of my window. After that, we often ran into old acquaintances in the area. With the family now relying solely on Ethan for income, they had no choice but to move back to their hometown. When my son was 3, on the way to his kindergarten, I ran into the female taxi driver from that day. Her car was parked on the side of the road. There were no passengers, only a girl who looked to be in middle school. The car was packed with furniture and luggage. She recognized me too and gave me a slightly bitter smile. I got divorced too. I didn't ask what had happened. I just booked a hotel room for her and her daughter. As I left, I gave her my contact information. "Ma'am, I'm looking for a driver to take my son to and from school. If you're interested, you would only be responsible for pick up and drop off. The rest of the day is yours." That day, I offered the driver a salary 3 times the normal rate. As she stared at me, bewildered, I smiled and took her hand. "This is for the ride.